call to order the regular meeting of the Forest Hills School District Board of Education on Monday, May 18th. Will the treasurer please call the roll?
Mrs. Bissinger.
Here.
Mr. Fruman.
Here.
Dr. Heiss. Mr. Hemmelgarn.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here. You all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And we don't have a flag. But you know what? We're going to do it anyway. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As required, I'm pointing out that there are emergency exits, obviously, to your left, in front of the room, and at the rear of the room. Before we move on to the adopting the agenda, I simply wanted to point out that this morning the Forest Hills Board of Education approved a separation agreement with Dr. Dallas Jackson, who has served as the superintendent of the Forest Hills School District and dedicated 5 years of his life to serving our school district. We appreciate his service and again are thankful for the time that he spent with us. This morning the Board of Education also approved Mr. Tom Durbin as our interim superintendent. Mr. Durbin will serve as our interim superintendent for the remainder of the 2014-15 school year and into the 2015 school year until a permanent superintendent is selected. Tom has served as the interim superintendent in 2 other districts for Georgetown Exempted Village Schools from 2011 until 2013 and Western Brown Local Schools in early 2011. As superintendent of the New Richmond Exempted Village District from 2005 until 2010, he led the district of more than 2,400 students to excellent ratings from the Ohio Department of Education for 3 consecutive years, reduced expenditures, and completed facility projects, including renovating schools and building a new athletic complex. We're confident Mr. Durbin will be a dynamic addition to the administrative team and will continue to direct our academic, curricular, and facility work in a manner which will maintain the excellence for which our district is known. He brings a wealth of instructional, financial, facility, and leadership experience to this position that will serve our district well during this interim period. Tom has also served as superintendent of Williamsburg Local School District, where he worked to increase academic performance, implemented a fiscal watch recovery plan, and served as a member of the executive board for the Southern Buckeye Academic Athletic Conference and the High Schools That Work Committee. While at Williamsburg, he also served as the middle and high school principals, district special education coordinator, and transportation director and curriculum director. So he comes to us with a wealth of experience. At this time, I would simply like to introduce Mr. Tom Durbin to our community and ask if you would.
Again, I want to thank the Forest Hills Board of Education for putting their confidence in me by asking me to fulfill this role. I've had a wonderful day on my first day. How can it get better? You start the day with a board meeting, you end the day with a board meeting. Absolutely wonderful. But no, I had a meeting with the board of directors. I've been in 6 elementaries today, and it's just been an absolutely wonderful day. And I really thank the press for being here to help us recognize the retirees. The retirees, if you want to know anything about retirement, I will tell you all I know, and I'm not very good at it. Again, thank you very much for your confidence, and we're going to move forward. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. This ends one chapter and opens a brand new chapter in Forest Hills. And how we move forward, I think, will depend on the people in this room, as well as everybody on staff and our parents and teachers. And I would encourage everybody to be positive. Forest Hills is one of a handful of school districts that have kept the state's top ranking for at least 10 years in a row. I think there's either 4 or 6 in the entire state that have done that. And we're one of those districts. And I just want to make sure that we keep our eye focused on academics and what's right for our students and move forward and maintain our rating. And I thank everybody for their support, especially during the last 4 or 6 weeks. I got to know our directors a lot better over the last few weeks, and I always thought that was a great crew, but I got to tell you, these people are outstanding, dedicated, loyal, hardworking people. And I really, really appreciate what you guys do on a regular basis, and like I said, I even appreciate it more from what I've learned over the past couple of months. So I thank you for everything you have done and will be doing for Forest Hills. With that, we will move on to adopting an agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Item 3, and by the way, we've only got a couple more pieces of business here before we get to the recognition, so hang with us. Approval of the minutes of the Business Advisory Committee meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the Business Advisory Committee for April 20th, 2015.
Second.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Approval of the minutes of the previous regular meeting, April 27th.
I move that we approve the regular minutes from the meeting on April 27th, 2015.
Second.
Before we
Mr.
take the
Fruman?
roll, there was a minor correction, and that's in the board docs that we're approving now. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Teffer?
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Correspondence. Is either the treasurer or the superintendent have any correspondence for us this evening?
No.
Haven't been here long enough to get the mail yet.
Oh, you will.
Moving on, procedures for public commentary. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda under public commentary. Individuals who'd like to share their opinions or comments concerning a topic on the board's agenda should list the agenda item or topic on a note card available from the secretary, Mrs. Monk, right here. You'll be recognized by the board president during public commentary. Remarks should be addressed to the board as a group and be within the 5-minute time limit. Let's see. Having said that, moving on, now the fun part of the evening. Commendations and recognitions. At this point, I will turn the meeting over to Mrs. Carnahan. Will you please lead us through the recognition?
We'll be happy to do so. As we all know, this is always a bittersweet time of the school year. While it is a celebration for those folks who are retiring, it's also, the bittersweet part is the fact that we are losing their expertise and their way that they work with students. The people here are the best of the best. And so with that, I just wanted to let you know we have 24 folks who are retiring or have retired during this school year. And between all of them, it's somewhere between 8 and 32 years of service, so a lot of service. When you start adding all of that up, it's 553 years of service that is leaving the district. And again, these folks are the ones who are there at school early, they're there late, they are helping students. It's what, as Randy talked about, what a great district this is. The reason that this is a great district clearly falls in the hands of our teachers and our other staff members, as well as our students and parents. And so with that, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And one of the things I always like to do is read just a little poem. It's called 100 Years From Now. 100 years from now, it won't matter what kind of car I drove, what kind of house I lived in, how much money I had in the bank, or what my clothes looked like. But the world may be a better place because I was important in the life of a child. And each and every one of you here today who are being recognized as a retiree are important in the lives of our children. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ray Johnson, Business Operations, and Tia Strauss, Food Services.
Okay. Well, Kathy Lowe is one of my retirees, and she couldn't be here tonight.
but she did work 19 years for the food service department. And I want to thank her for her years of service and wish her the best. Joanne Simone is here, and she has spent 21 years at AIR, and she needs to come on up. Actually, Chris thought he was going to introduce her, so I'm going to read his stuff more than my stuff because it's better. Well, I'm being truthful. She has been a member of the AIR community for 21 years. She is hardworking and compassionate, and she goes out of her way to make students feel included, supported, and cared for. This level of compassion is mirrored outside the school day. She participates and drags her family into events like the Ice Bucket Challenge last spring and volunteered with AIR staff this spring at Matthew 25. Joanne will be focusing on our upcoming arrival of our third grandchild, and I know she's going to be anxiously awaiting that. She'll also be volunteering at AIR Reading on a personal level. The other benefit I get is that she's actually going to stay around and sub, so it's always a good thing. The other thing is one of the things I always will remember, the voice in my head that's always with me is, she's always like, you need to pick up a fruit or a vegetable. You can't just eat that main entree. Go pick up your fruit and your vegetable. And of course, as you know, our palette of vegetables has increased, so there's always Brussels sprouts or collard greens, and the kids just look at her. And then the other thing is that of course you want your milk with that, right? So you need to go back and get your milk, and the kids just look at her and go, yeah, I forgot. So I want to wish her all the best in her years, and I'm grateful she's sticking around. Thanks.
Richard Porter, Supervisor, Transportation.
Tia, just so you know, I don't like Brussels sprouts either. We have 5 people in the transportation department we need to recognize tonight. Unfortunately, none of them could be here. At least I don't believe any of them are here. And if they're late, then that's not norm for the bus drivers. At least I hope it's not. Glenda Beard, Ed Brocksterman, Don Fischesser, which is, we normally call him Fish because nobody can pronounce his name. Sharon Schmidt-Gessling, and yes, I can spell her last name, and Mary Young. All I would like to say is collectively, this is a group of people who are all about kids, all about family, and all about their department. Every one of these people has been involved in fundraising efforts to help take care of their fellow staff who have seen hard times, whether it be the loss of a family member, all those types of things. This is just a group of people who are always there for one another. Thank you.
Mike Broadwater, Anderson High School.
Good evening. If you look at the program, we have 3 individuals listed. One individual is Karen Gremband. She actually retired last year. The paperwork apparently went through after that. I was wondering if Karen was going to show up again this year for the pastries, but she did not. So the next individual is Tim Fuller. Tim is not here this evening. Tim Fuller, when you talk about Anderson High School, Tim Fuller's name comes up. The seniors vote on their favorite teacher each year, and I believe in Tim's 27 years, he's probably won it 25 times. He is a teacher that is beloved. He works very, very hard. He won the UC Economics Teacher of the Year this year, so he is going out on top, and he is somebody that you do not replace. I know he's looking forward to hanging out with his wife and his 2 children, and he's earned that. He is going to open up an antique shop up in Blue Ash, so feel free to visit anytime. But Tim is just an educator that we will miss very, very much. Our next educator, Joanne Hart, come on up. Joanne has been a teacher here in Forest Hills for 14 years. She has taught in Ohio, Kentucky, and in Florida. And while here, Joanne has taught all 5 levels, that would be 5 levels, in Spanish, especially excelling with level 5 because she has a background in art and made the history come alive for her students. When you talk to her students, they usually know the art, and it's because Joanne has a passion for it. Her students often remark when they were traveling with her that they recalled the painting, artist, or landmark from what she had taught in class. Joanne took students to Spain 4 times. There were many adventures, like the infamous 12-hour layover in London, having a parent get lost, which is better than losing a kid, and teaching students to use the subway system, navigate their needs with the hotel, and other various things that go with that. While she's been at Anderson, Joanne started our chapter of the National Spanish Honor Society. About 50 to 70 students are recognized yearly for their hard work and their Spanish studies. Many of these students have kept in touch with her to let Joanne know how well they did on their Spanish placement test for college or how well they're doing in their Spanish classes. She has left a positive mark on many of our students. It is now time for Joanne to retire, and Joanne is another educator we cannot replace. We will miss her greatly. Her expertise both in and out of the classroom is going to be missed, and more importantly, I will miss her as a friend. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Peggy Johnson, Turpin High School.
We have a number of retirees as well, but I believe we only have one here. I'll start with Karen Warren, who is our secretary in our school counseling department and has worked in the Forest Hill School District for 30 years. As many of you, she certainly can offer many stories dealing with teenagers and all the changes during the course of those 30 years, not only in her own job, but to the young people that walk through the office. Whether it was a transcript, a work permit, a box of Kleenex, a place to hide out. She was the woman that always had the friendly face and kind voice, and we want to thank Karen, as all the teenagers do, for all of that time and patience that she put into their high school experience. Karen Cochin actually also left basically at the end of last year, and a wonderful, wonderful English language arts teacher and extraordinary human being that modeled for our children what it was to love literature, use literature to expand their horizons, their own life. She's already been missed this year and will be continued to miss by both of our students and the staff as well. Also, I want to take a second. Kathy Lowe actually ended up her career at Turpin in our cafeteria, and she was there for 8 years. And many of us have had hungry teenagers at one time or another. So I want you to imagine this. This is what Kathy got to do. She served 300 hungry teenagers every 25 minutes for a total of 1,200 teenagers a day. It was a great job. They're not always kind when they're hungry if you have a teenager. Last but not least, Senor English is here with us tonight. So many things to say about Senor, but when I was hired as an interim principal, a while ago.
Yeah, it was.
Senor was a professional who came to me and offered so much support immediately. But more importantly, many of you met him at the board meeting last month as the Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year. he is way more impressive than that. He is the best educator every single day of the year. For all the years I've known him. And as most of our world language teachers, again, it extended well into the summer. The hundreds and hundreds of students that traveled with him, and there must be something about these travels because he not only teaches them how to explain to the hotel manager that they overflowed their toilet in Spanish, that they are having an appendectomy, racing through the airport on that one was the trip I got to be on with him, having the layovers, and it was amazing what he has taught these children in terms of not only learning another language, another culture, serving other people. So many of our students have continued their foreign language education in college because of him, whether they've minored in it. They've traveled abroad, they've studied abroad, they have worked abroad. His own daughter, I'm not sure when he saw her last, but she's in Korea. So, I'm not sure what else I could tell you about John, but if your kid did not get to have him, it surely is a loss for you. I wish my student would have had him because then I'm thinking he might have got higher than a C. Senor English.
John Vandermeer, Nagel Middle School.
If Robin Huizinga could please come up. Mrs. Huizinga started her teaching career in 1975, and since that time has been impacting kids in so many ways. I've had the opportunity of working with her for the last 9 years, and there's two things that really stick out to me as far as Robin is concerned. And number one is her passion for education. In those 9 years, I've had many wonderful conversations with her on how we can impact our students and help them to grow. She's an intervention specialist who has helped take kids from places where they didn't think they could ever get to places that they couldn't believe that they got to. And it was because of her tireless work, and it was her work not only with the student, but also with the teachers, and being willing to talk about tough ways to help students. She has such a tender heart and loves students so much, but yet she can look at a student and say, you will do this, I will not take it for an excuse, and let's get it done, and they say, yes, ma'am. The other piece of it is she just has such a heart for kids, period. Not only from the academic piece, but from every day, and how she takes care of them. In the middle school, we like to talk about the whole child. And if you're going to educate a child, you not only have to worry about the academic piece, you have to worry about the social and the emotional. And Mrs. Huizinga every day does that with all of her students. The best way I could describe Robin is this. There's a song that talks about when you get to heaven and you know that you've done what you were called to do by the number of people who line up and greet you. And the line for Robin, when that time comes, hopefully not anytime soon, but when that time comes, would probably be one of the longest lines that you could ever imagine, of just person after person coming up and saying, this is how I turned out, and I turned out this way because of you. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Steve Trailer, Maddox Elementary.
We have 3 retirees at Maddox Elementary this year. The first one that I want to talk about is Lisa Robinette, and she is not with us tonight. Lisa is committed 32 years of service to the district. Lisa and I always joke that we're more like brother and sister because she'll push right back, tell me exactly what she's thinking and why, kind of thing. But Lisa is a dedicated intervention specialist who has committed her entire life loving those kids that are sometimes a little more challenging to love and to put out there, and she works very, very hard. I want to recognize Lisa Robinette. The other two retirees are here with us this evening, and the first person I want to recognize is Dr. Linda Laudner. And I swore I was not going to mispronounce her name, and then I did. It's not Laudner, it's Lundner.
Yes.
It's hard to say. But Doc is a veteran teacher of 43 years of experience, 26 years in our school district and the other 17 in other districts. She served the district in numerous roles, from the gifted coordinator for the district to classroom teacher in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. She's currently our science specialist. This year she won the Battelle for Kids Distinguished Educator Award, which is the first person in our district to do so. Battelle for Kids recognizes teachers who have the greatest impact from fall of the school year until the spring of that school year. Doc's value added score is 15.8. If you get a 2.0, you're in the most effective category. So she really knows what she's doing when it comes to teaching science. I just want to recognize Doc because she's dedicated and committed. She sticks to her values. She believes in challenging our kids and that all kids can learn at a high level. Thank you.
Thank you.
While she's going through the line, I want to invite Paula Berry up. Paula has served as an intervention specialist and an LD tutor in our district for 28 years. I always describe Paula as one of the hardest working people I know. I think Paula has that magical key that can fit more than 24 hours into a day. When you ask her about school, she's there before the administrators usually. She's there after the administrators usually. She works her tail off. She's very, very flexible. She, like Robin, works with students who have different learning needs. And yet, when you talk to her about her personal life, whether it's something with her children when they were in school, or you talk to her about her commitment at church and the volunteer time that she puts in church, it's like she's a quote-unquote stay-at-home mom because of the amount of time that she puts in there. Paula is one of the most sincere, loving, hardworking, heartfelt people that I've ever met. And I'm going to be sorry to see her go. Paula Berry.
Megan Gilman, assistant principal at Mercer.
While you're making your way up here, I just want to point out that we will be taking a 15 to 20-minute recess after we've finished recognizing all of our retiring teachers immediately after this presentation. So we'll have a chance to socialize and congratulate here in just a few minutes. But go ahead. Thank you.
Great. I am here tonight. I have the honor for recognizing our Mercer teachers. We have 3 that are retiring this year that together have served students for over 75 years. The first is Dee Held. She is not here this evening, but she is an amazing reading specialist that we've been lucky enough to have her final year here in Forest Hills at Mercer. She's been a leader in our building, leading book studies and discussions, and just being an all-around problem solver. I want to thank her for her many years of service and the awesome contributions she's made to Mercer in her last year. The next teacher is Kimberly Schwartz. She is not here this evening, but she has served Forest Hills for the past 27 years in multiple grade levels, but has spent her final 13 in second grade. She will be sorely missed in second grade. She is loved by her colleagues and her students. Her favorite memory of teaching, she shared, was still in third grade, where she got to lead her classroom through the Young Author Share Fair each spring. We wish her the best in her retirement as she returns to photography and writing. Thanks, Kim. And finally, we have Miss Erin English, who is here tonight. I cannot say enough about Miss English. I think it speaks volumes if you can just turn and look at the crowd to the number of families and students that came out to support her tonight. It's more than I could say. But Miss English has served Forest Hills for the past 30 years and has been an amazing contribution to Mercer. In speaking with her colleagues, since I was new to Mercer this year, I got to do a little digging. And they call her the wise owl of Mercer, which is just so true if you know Erin, that she is always there for advice, is there as an ear to talk to, and help you problem solve through. One of her colleagues also wanted to recognize her focus on the whole child, and it's amazing to see how she supports her students in the growth that can make in just a year's experience with her. We wish you the best as you enter retirement, and we hope that you're the best as your education, and I know you want to become a blogger, so we wish you the best in that moving forward. Thank you so much, Erin.
Dan Hamilton, Sherwood Elementary Principal.
All right, good evening, board and all of our guests. It is with great honor that I get to stand up and recognize Jack Butcher as Sherwood's retiree this year. So come on up, Jack. So I'm going to try not to air too much of his dirty laundry today, but we'll have a little bit of fun. So, okay, I'll jump in when you want to. I might do that. I know. All right, so Jack has been in education for 35 years. 26 of those have been in the Forest Hill School District. He has held various roles at Sherwood from 3rd to 6th grade. He's had touched many lives in his time at Sherwood. But I decided to kind of break kind of his story up into 3 different quotes. The first quote is, when you retire, you switch bosses, from the one who hired you to the one who married you. So Leslie, we're going to send him home, so you got him from here on out. So there's a little more to that story. There's 2 things you need to know about Jack. First of all, he is an epic storyteller, which I think all of his colleagues would tell you. He's a great storyteller. Most of them, you get to the end of the story. But for the most part, he's a great storyteller. And he has a lot of work wives. So that's the thing that we have, all the people that he works with, so they keep him straight. I think he would say that he keeps them straight, but they're either a part of every story that he tells, or they have to listen to every story that he tells. But he's a great storyteller, and I think our staff really appreciates that about him, is the relationships that he does have with everybody there. The second quote, you don't simply retire from something, you have something to retire to. And so when I think about his 35 years in education, I think one thing that stands out, I know in Forest Hills, is he is like Mr. Camp Kern. He's been with Camp Kern for 25 years. And so when I think you think about the thumbprint that he has left on all the kids that have gone through Camp Kern, and the stories that they still tell, and all of the big brave dog stories that they tell also, and they still refer to that going up Pete's Tower. There's so much more to the story, but anyways, I think that's one thing that I know that he's retiring from, that I know he's passionate about and that he loves as well. So what is he going to retire to? When I asked Jack, what do you want to do now that you're going to hang it up, and he says, I want to advocate for kids. And so it doesn't surprise me to hear that he wants to continue to work for kids and be a part of their lives. I think those that know Jack, I think know what he stands for, and that wouldn't surprise anybody. I think there's also a lake house in the plans as well, so he may spend a little bit of time there too. And the last thing is that you retire from work, but not from life. And I think Jack has always been a hard worker. I think he's held multiple jobs. He's always busy. And I think one thing when I came to Sherwood that one of his former colleagues told me, I didn't know anybody when I came, and so when they said Jack Butcher, they said, he's just a gentle bear. You're gonna love Jack. He's just this gentle bear. And so the one thing that I have come to love and appreciate about Jack is his passion for kids, his passion to do what's right, his passion to fight for what's right, not only for his kids, but for his colleagues and just what's good in general for this district. So I'm gonna miss that, and I have a lot of respect for that, and I know that all of his friends do as well. So with that, we're gonna miss him.
Yes, all of us, get over here.
Selfie? You brought a selfie stick?
This is the things I learned when I get a kid. You said I, but I used one last week. I keep doing it. It's like the Academy Awards. It is. Okay. Especially all right, thank you. Thank you. You're my boss for like 2 more days.
If you didn't hear, one of the remarks up here was, it's like the Academy Awards. Great.
Hey, Jack.
Mr. Butcher, your parting gift.
Thanks, Jack.
Michelle Salstead, Summit Elementary.
I'd like to introduce Candy Loston, is our retiree from Summit this year. And we do not have a selfie stick. Candy is retiring from Summit after 25 years in the Forest Hills School District. She spent 1 year as a teacher's aide in 3rd grade. She was an ELO teacher for 1 year and has taught 4th grade for 23 years with a specialty of teaching 4th grade science. Candy shared with me when I asked her some of her fond memories over the years, including the foil boat contest, the Ants Alive program, the butterfly release, read-ins, read-alouds, biography dress-up presentations, and 1 year, her class wrote to the Esther Price Company and in return got a box of chocolates. She also recalls the year she found out that her new neighbor on her street was just hired to teach 4th grade at Summit with her. They've worked together for 15 years now and have become great coworkers and friends. After she retires, Candy plans to rest, relax, do home improvements, and travel. She already has a trip to Alaska planned for August. I have personally worked with Candy over the past 10 years, and I have seen her change and continue to grow professionally every year. She is dedicated, caring, hardworking, and is always willing to do what's best for kids. A few years ago, she spearheaded partnering with the Cincinnati Nature Center to bring a special on-site program to Summit called Ants Alive. That gave the students an opportunity to explore and investigate science concepts both inside the classroom and outside our school, on the school grounds. She has worked over the years very well. They've kind of had to reconfigure 3 1 year, 4 the next year, but she has worked very, very well with her teammates, Jill Cox, Amy Hill, and this year, Tara Miller in the 4th grade. She is a strong anchor that will be greatly missed on the team. Candy truly cares about the children that she works with. She has come to me over the years privately when students have struggled with home issues or other students and tried to find solutions to help them. I have great respect for her, and I know that I speak for all of our staff when I say that we will truly miss her. Thanks so much for making a difference in the lives of our students.
Bob Buck, Wilson Elementary.
Good evening. It's my honor to recognize Melissa Fabe. As we were walking up here, I told her as the reading specialist she had to read the speech, but she didn't. Melissa has been in education for 36 years, 32 of those years at Wilson as the reading specialist, sometimes in combination as the first, second, or third grade teacher. One of the things about Melissa, that kind of the thought that always goes through my mind, is that kids buy into their teacher before they buy into their learning. Melissa embraces this. Melissa always builds relationships with their students. When walking through the hallways at Wilson, it's always fun to see Melissa walking with kids because they're either telling jokes, talking about what happened on the weekend, talking about their sporting events. Some of the people often say that teaching is an art. Melissa is a true artist. She takes that medium of the human mind and spirit and guides them into readers. You have made a lasting impression on the students that you have taught at Wilson. We thank you. I thank you. Happy retirement.
Certainly, these retirees deserve this recognition, our thanks, and our well wishes as they go forward in their lives. If our retirees would just stand at their seats one last time, and let's give them another round of applause.
Again, thank you all for coming out this evening. Before we break, as I was listening to all the commentary and all the teachers, I heard three things in common. One, how hardworking and dedicated all these people are. Second, the unbelievable academic accomplishments that these people have delivered. And the third thing is the number of teachers who started out somewhere else in some other school district, but chose to finish their career, the bulk of their time in teaching at the Forest Hill School District. I think that speaks volumes. And Tammy, I think you said at the beginning, it's the teachers that really deliver the school district. It's what the school district is really all about. So again, thank you all so very much. And at this time, we do have some refreshments in the back of the room, and we will take a 15-minute recess. And if the teachers and the families want to continue out in the hall after that, you are more than welcome to. First of all, I want to thank everybody who put the reception together. Tammy and Erica, and I don't know who all else did the work, but thank you very much for putting that together. And Tia Strauss, how could I forget Tia? Moving on to item 6, public commentary. I have one green card. So our first and last speaker will be Aaron English.
My name is Erin English, and I am speaking to the board tonight about high-stakes testing. I am a proud third grade teacher at Mercer. I began my Forest Hills life as a fourth grader at Maddox. My husband and I met at Anderson Middle School as students, and we both graduated from Anderson. Our 2 children went through Forest Hills and are Turpin grads. My husband and I have a combined total of 56 years of service to this great district. And other than my time in college and Peace Corps, I have been with Forest Hills since 1970. I love this district and I love my school, but it is my deep love and concern for my students that give me the courage to speak publicly tonight. When my students here tonight stand up, guys. I would like to introduce you to two of these students. This is Caroline. She is 9 years old and big sister to Henry. Caroline has a pony, Otis, whom she adores. Her favorite part of the day is reading books with her friends. She loves polka dots. And on the afternoon of the first day of park testing, Caroline went home and cried. This is Samuel. He has a big sister, a little sister, and step siblings. He has a puppy, Miller, who misses him while he's at school. Samuel is our computer expert, and he helps me when I get in difficulty, which is often. His parents decided it was in Samuel's best interest not to take the park tests, so they decided to opt him out. Keep all of these faces in mind tonight when you hear the words that I would want to share. This is the testing experience of all of my students and every third grade student in this district for this year. In September, they took the measures of academic progress in reading and in math, known as MAP. In October, they took the Ohio Achievement Assessment in reading. In January, they took the InView testing for gifted identification. In February, they took the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Career, known as PARC, in math. In March, they took the MAP Reading and MAP Math. In April, they took the PARC End of the Year Assessment in Math and OAA Reading again. And in April, they took the Ohio Writing Diagnostic. That is a total of approximately, and these numbers are low, 1,040 minutes. That's over 17 hours spent on testing. That is 12 days of high-stakes testing for 8 and 9-year-old children. These numbers do not include the long hours spent on test prep at home and at school. And it doesn't get better in grades 4 through 6, it gets worse. Now, specifically about PARC, the federal government awarded over $360 million to companies to develop PARC and the Smarter Balance, the other Common Core aligned test. People are making tons of money from our children. PARC can no longer be considered even a common assessment. Initially, 24 states were on board to give PARC. States are dropping out very quickly, and now less than 12 states are involved in it. The scores will not reach parents until next school year, perhaps as late as December. Nationally known reading specialists have evaluated passages in reading and math and have found those passages, many of them, to be 2 grade levels above the grade level tested. It is commonly predicted that approximately 60 to 70% of students taking PARC will not meet the cut score. They will fail. PARC, along with Smarter Balance, has also been monitoring the social media of our students. These tests narrow and distort the curriculum. We are becoming miners of data and not teachers of children. Our instruction becomes more about coverage of standards than on deep thinking and pursuing the interests and strengths of our students. We begin to teach to the test, especially when district, school, and teacher ratings and evaluations are all tied closely to test scores. Test prep begins early. Kindergarten students read with the timer close by to track their words per minute, and recess on a daily basis no longer exists in many classrooms. First graders do not get regular choice time to build with blocks or to paint on an easel. Many teachers are alarmed with what is happening in our schools, but they're too afraid to speak up. The Every Child Achieve Act, which is currently working its way through the U.S. Senate, will restore more power in decision-making to states. With state control, local communities will have a greater voice in how they will educate their children. My students, families, fellow teachers, and I ask the board to continue to educate itself on the kinds of tests, the amount of testing, and how this data is being used and misused. We hope you become the heroes of our children and do whatever it takes to protect them from the bullying of these high-stakes tests and from the greedy corporate reformers who love money more than our children. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your remarks. It's customary that we normally don't have a dialogue for public conversations, but I really want to thank you for your remarks and let you know that the board is very, very aware of the issues that you brought up. I also know that, for example, the bill that's working its way through the Senate, Senator Portman is a strong supporter of that. He signed on to that legislation, and I think that would be one of the things that would help separate the federal government from some of the things that they're trying to do to control curriculum, testing. So I appreciate the fact that you pointed that out. But thank you very much for your remarks. Does anybody else, anything? Thank you.
All right, and I appreciate the opportunity. All right, guys.
Next on our agenda is our district update, and at this point I would ask our superintendent if he has anything after being on the job. You've been here, what, at least 8 hours?
I'm coming back tomorrow. It's been a really nice day. I said it earlier, I've enjoyed talking to people, and when the reporter asked me the one thing that I can take away from today, I'll share with the board that the one thing that I came away with is the dedication to the kids that you have by all staff members. And that says a lot about why you're successful. I heard it every day, every place I went today in the buildings, from the secretaries, the teachers, whomever. So you're to be complimented on that, and that's quite rewarding to me in this role. So I'm looking forward to working with them.
Thank you. Moving on in our district updates, facilities updates, I'd like to introduce Ray Johnson, who will introduce our speaker.
As you can imagine, things have been pretty busy over the course of the last couple of weeks keeping up with this, and I think maybe 3 weeks from Wednesday we actually start turning dirt and getting ready and actually starting some of the projects. But we've already begun our survey work at many of our locations, our geotechnical work. Today we confirmed the fact that the geothermal testing will commence at Wilson probably the day after school's out. We didn't want to disrupt anything at the schools. We've actually begun meeting with our contractors for our pre-construction meetings for some of the HVAC work that's taking place. So there's a lot going to be happening in Forest Hills related to bond construction, and we're continuing to plan for projects moving into the late summer, fall, and a real busy summer of 2016. So I'd like to introduce Joe Kunkel with SSOE. He's going to kind of walk through with you where we're at with some of the plans for Nagel.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Members of the board, administration, always a pleasure to be here. This project, the Nagel Middle School project, is one that's probably go through pretty quick here. There's only 5 slides. It's the partitions in the classrooms, and it's the vestibule only. Those are only aspects of the project that we'll be dealing with, that we're getting approval for it to move forward to go into the bidding procurement phase. What you see in the slide here is the gold. The classrooms in gold are the what we call flexible classrooms. They're the ones that are combined. They have partitions separating them. Go to the next slide, be the same thing on the next floor. There's a total of 10 of those classrooms. And we are in essence just replacing those partitions and cleaning the classrooms up and make them for a more flexible future use by getting rid of the permanent cabinetry that's in there right now, so they become more adaptable to future use from a utilization and technology standpoint to be very flexible furniture down the road. Next slide. That's just the from the construction documents, the floor plan. Actually, we went to the school and also in the steering committee. We actually presented several scenarios in terms of the opening between the two, and we're anywhere from 14 feet to 21 feet. 21 feet being the maximum because that allows space at the end to still kind of keep the wall free. We decided to go to the maximum opening that we could accommodate between these classrooms. As we looked at this, it was important that these partitions are going to be, right now the ones there are in bad shape. And that these partitions are used a lot by the teachers themselves in terms of whether a classroom becomes partially open, completely opened, or closed. So we looked at, again, the product that we're putting in place is something that can be handled and is functional for the staff, the teachers in the room. Next slide. This is it here. Actually, the panel is a nanowall system. It's set up with marker board. That marker board is also magnetic. It does have a wood finish. We're actually lowering down a little bit the actual height of the partition, which makes them easier to maneuver. The ones now go all the way to the top to the ceiling. They're somewhat large and bulky. That's really what we looked at. We investigated and researched the different products. We're looking for one that is very functional from the user standpoint. They can be easily moved and stacked. You'll see on the plan, it stacks to one side of the room. Those walls, the two in, those also, in each of those walls will be two outlets, giving us more opportunity for more power in the room, where it can be used for functionality of the room. And actually the installation is being fairly simple and all, but it's a high quality product from a use and operational standpoint. Next slide. That's a picture of the wall, the typical wall. They are moved into individual panels and put into place. Next slide. Oh, the other piece of the project is the vestibule. So moving on to the vestibule, any questions on the partitions themselves? It's a fairly, as I say, it's a fairly simple and straightforward project. It's one of the smaller projects. And this is part of it. We may pull this piece out separately depending on how we package the actual contractual aspect of it. What you're seeing up there is the new vestibule, which right now is in the principal's office. And the discussion here was to maximize the space in the office itself and keep the vestibule to more minimum size. This vestibule is the security vestibule that we're doing at every school. The approach to the security vestibule is you come in, that open door. After students are allowed off at school in the morning, the main doors are locked and shut down. So anybody after the initial start of school needs to come in through the office for entry. They come to that vestibule door. There's the new door that will be put in there. It's actually where the windows are right now. Up on the left-hand side, it'll be just to the left of the big tree. Come to the front. And that door will be free, always open. Then you come in the vestibule, you buzz in to get into the next door. Or there's a lot, this was one of the concerns, there was a lot of drop off of whether it's lunches or book bags. What you see in the upper left there in that vestibule room, actually go to the next slide, is enlarged. In the upper left of the room, vestibule itself, is a drawer. Similar to might be at a bank or somewhere, but it's a deeper drawer. The idea being it'd be deep enough if somebody's just dropping off book bags or lunches, they can put them in the drawer and pass them through. Right now, there's a lot of drop off during the day, and that was a real concern. So not always continually opening and closing that door, that this would be a good solution that would satisfy that purpose. Now again, bigger, someone's bringing a trombone that a student forgot, they're gonna have to walk into the office and drop off the trombone. But we kept the vestibule fairly minimal. Once you're inside, also the way security, this is going to become the standard for all the security vestibules, that then when you leave and go into the building, you go in through the office and the door in the office, that door will be on a panic lock, so that if for some reason the person gets in the office and there is a situation they feel, they can push a button, that door into the school would then lock as a secondary backup. Questions on the...
In all the schools, Joe, I've never asked this question, so I don't know the answer, but in the vestibules themselves, what materials are the walls made out of?
They will be glass.
Just regular old glass, no special glass.
And I mean, it's just standard safety glass, it's laminated so it doesn't shatter when it falls apart, but it's been fairly typical.
Okay.
This entry also now, in the other schools, some of them will have this in the main vestibule, which is also a vestibule shared by the students. This will be the access, so that we'll have here the handicap accessibility for basically the button and handicap assist on the door opener. Actually, we're adding one also at we're called the sports end of the building, since that's a primary entry for events. So Nagel actually have 2 ADA assists added to the facility. The other one will be an existing door, and it will just be a modification to the door to make that work. So there's kind of 2 parts of these vestibules, the security piece and the ADA piece. And the ADA, kind of clarifying that, ADA assist is a choice to accomplish. You can have all ADA entries in an exterior building, I think, as long as the building is considered accessible, as long as it has a 15-pound pole. The assist is another criteria. Once you put in assist, then there's ADA standards you have to follow for putting the assist into it. So all the schools at the main vestibule will have the assist, and Nagel, and then the 2 high schools will also have the assist at what we're going to call the sports entry or the event entry in the facilities. Kind of the big picture. So 2 small projects. Just wanted to make the presentation, and we'll move forward with them. Any questions?
Questions, anybody? I think you've done a good job keeping us up to date as you've progressed on this particular project.
Very good. Thank you.
There's no action, correct? Okay. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. I believe this is routine and standard. Any questions or discussion? We have a motion to approve our continued membership.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Tepfer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Moving on to item 8, board discussion. I have no topics. Does any board member have any topics for board discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 9, candidates for graduation. Who is presenting? The principals are, of course.
We are, yes.
Good evening. The 2015 candidates for graduation from Anderson High School are submitted to the Board of Education for approval, subject to each student's meeting the requirements as set forth by the Forest Hills Board of Education.
Same for the 2015 graduates from Turpin High School. Let's see, I guess I should fill you in. Commencement ceremonies for both high schools will be at the Bank of Kentucky Center again this year on May 31st, 2015. Turpin is in the morning this year at 11 a.m. and Anderson is in the afternoon at 3 p.m. It is recommended that the board approve the granting of diplomas to the candidates listed in the attachments, and any students who enroll, God no, at Anderson or Turpin High School after this date, subject to satisfactory completion of all state and local requirements as needed for graduation. Turpin has 301 graduates this year. 290? 284 at Anderson. At this time. Fingers crossed for all of that.
I do have a motion. I move that we approve the candidates from Anderson and Turpin High Schools.
Second.
Any questions of our principals here? Mr. Tepfer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. I look forward to seeing you.
See you in a week.
Okay, moving on. Item 10, student services. Mrs. Ryan.
Student Services has 3 items this evening. 10.1 is our addendum to our annual operating agreement for 2015-16 with Hamilton County Developmental Disability Services. This is an agreement to support some mandated assessments for our children ages from infancy to age 3. The cost is the same as for as long as I've been here, since its development of this contract for $12,730.20. It is recommended the board approve the addendum to the annual operating agreement as shown in the attachment for services for the 2015-2016 school year.
We in consent at this point?
No, we need to vote on
We need to
these.
vote, okay. Motion, please.
I move that we approve the Hamilton County Educational Service Center contract as proposed.
Second.
I got the wrong one. Never mind. The Developmental Disabilities Services addendum as proposed.
Second.
Second on that one.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Tepfer?
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And item 10.2 is our instructional services agreement with Hamilton County Educational Service Center. This agreement is with the Forest Hill School District and HCESC to provide instructional and auxiliary services to the district and to Immaculate Heart of Mary School for the 2015-2016 school year. It is recommended the board approve the Hamilton County Educational Service Center agreement for services provided to Forest Hills and IHM.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Discussion? Mr. Tepfer?
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And item 10.3 is a overnight trip to Orlando, Florida by Turpin High School's band. They are requesting permission for 105 students and 15 chaperones to travel to Orlando, Florida next school year, February 10th through the 16th of 2016, to perform in the Disney Parade. The cost per student is $885, and that includes, as noted here in the agenda item, meals, lodging, transportation, and tickets. And transportation will be provided by chartered bus. And as you always ask, we have ensured that all students are provided assistance through fundraising opportunities and any additional assistance from the band boosters. It is recommended the board approve the overnight trip to Orlando, Florida, February 10th through 15th, 2016.
Dr. Heiss moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
I didn't actually look on the calendar, February 10th through 15th. Are we having those excused days for the field trip, for the students, obviously?
They are excused, and students are responsible for the work that they miss while they are attending.
Is that during one of those long holiday weekends too, or no?
This was, I believe so. Peggy,
Like
I think
President's-
it was
President's-
a long weekend.
Yeah, like
Right.
President's Day or something,
Like a
yeah.
Friday
Right.
through a returning on Monday.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. Mr. Tepfer?
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Moving on to item 11. Natasha, you are still here.
One document really can't express all the hard work and dedication and passion and debate that goes into a math course of study process. So I want to just take a moment before we approve the math course of study just to read an excerpt from it that kind of highlights the dedication and the thought process that the educators of Forest Hills went through to create this work. A team of professional, dedicated, and knowledgeable K-12 district educators in the Forest Hills School District developed the math course of study. This document was based on current research in mathematics content, learning theory, and instructional practices. Ohio's New Learning Standards for Mathematics, adopted in June 2010, and a book called Principles to Actions: Ensuring Mathematical Success for All were the main resources used to guide the development and content for this document. While Ohio's New Learning Standards for Mathematics were the main source of content, additional sources were used to guide the development of the course, indicators, and objectives, including the College Board, which is where we use our AP courses, and the Ohio Department of Education model curricula developed by Ohio educators to support the implementation of the new standards. The mathematics course of study is based on Ohio's new learning standards that are both focused and coherent in order to improve mathematics achievement. These standards define what students should understand and be able to do in their study of mathematics. 8 practices embedded within Ohio's learning standards flow through the mathematics instruction from preschool all the way to high school. These 8 practices describe varieties of expertise that mathematics educators at all levels should seek to develop in their students. These practices rest on important processes and proficiencies with long-standing importance in mathematics education. The content of the Forest Hill School District course of study reflects the skills, processes, and knowledge that we believe students in the Forest Hill School District need to know to be competent, knowledgeable, and confident in their understanding of mathematics, and in their ability to apply this understanding in future learning experiences and throughout their life. And so at this time, I'd recommend that the board approve the math course of study, which is attached to the agenda and has been on review in central office since last month, April 27th.
Motion?
I move that we approve the math course of study.
Second.
It seems like you all have worked so hard on this. You've shared with us over the months the process and the number of people involved, and we thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing that background information, because so often I hear people who are interested but sometimes don't have the facts, don't understand the difference between standards and our curriculum. And I think it's really valuable for people to understand that our teachers are the ones who put together our curriculum, and they believe in it. So, like I said, I appreciate you sharing that background, because like I said, I think that's very helpful and helps separate some of the fact from fiction. Anyway, any other questions, discussion? Mr. Tepfer?
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Moving on, item 12, technology. Mrs. McCormick.
Well, over the past 5 weeks, we've gone through a process to look for new printer and copier vendors. We had a print management service contract as well as a copier contract, two separate, that actually ended at the same time, June 30th of this year. And through that process, we found a winning vendor, ComDoc. We're basically taking 15 copiers, which is what we currently have. We're expanding that to 49, which sounds like a lot, but then think of 600 printers to 112. It costs significantly more to print to a printer. It's a significant cost savings to move to a copier. So essentially, we're right-sizing our district. We've looked at our volumes, and all copiers aren't the same. We have some small ones, we have some large ones. We have central print that we're going to be driving traffic to. So it is my recommendation that the board approve the contract with ComDoc. And Kevin, if you'd please stand up, the ComDoc representatives here this evening, for a 36-month lease that starts July 1st of this year.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I just want to applaud you for being proactive and doing this. This is, to me, one more example where Forest Hills has done what it takes to be efficient and effective. I see businesses doing this, and so often people say, well, why don't you run like a business? Well, this is what business is doing in condensing down on printers. I know, or I worked, we went through the same process. So thank you very much.
Christine, there will be, I think you mentioned it in the report that we got this week, there will be a little bit of a learning curve. We did the same thing where I work at City Hall, and it's fine. Everybody will be fine. You just maybe won't be able to print to the printer you're used to printing to 5 feet away, but
When I've tried to add some conveniences
it'll
along the way,
be
some
fine.
barcode
It'll be
scanning
good.
and some other things,
So thank you.
Well, for as long as I can remember, we've had complaints about the quality of some of the copies of the printers, so it's about time we do this. The other thing that some of you know that I spend my time reviewing this stuff over the weekend and send out my emails, and then you're all racing to get me answers before the Monday meeting, and I understood and appreciated that you opted for a shorter term lease, so we'll be able to roll over into more updated and modern equipment in 3 years rather than staying in this for 48 or 60 months and being forced to live with what then might be considered older technology.
Exactly.
Any other questions or comments?
So they're taking over the maintenance too.
Correct.
We've all been through that, and maintenance is key.
It
It's one
is.
thing to have it, so.
It is.
I know what you look like now.
And
And
I
our
noted
response
your
times
proposed
improved as well.
turnaround times. I
That's
noticed
right.
that. We're going to
Trust
hold
me.
you to it.
Glad you came.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Tepfer?
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Moving on, Human Resources, Mrs. Carnahan.
May is a very busy time in human resources, as you can tell by the packet that you received for our HR report. Item 13.1 is the Human Resources Report Part A. Item A, resignations. We have 3, an administrator and 2 certified staff members. Item B is a memorandum of understanding with our FHTA group. And while there are other things incorporated within this MOU, the bulk of it addresses the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System, OTES. And so I really would like to, for our administrators who are here, for those teachers who are still here, for our FHTA leadership, I know we have some of our leaders of that group here, just really want to extend a thank you. I know that this was our first full year implementation. There was a lot of hard work that went on, a lot of pinning that went on, pretty furious pinning in the last week or so. And so really, I just want to say I appreciate everything that you have done, and we will continue to work collaboratively together. Item C, a salary schedule for the supplemental salary schedule. Again, this is a project that we've worked on collaboratively, administratively, and also with our FHTA. Item D, administrator employee benefits. Item E covers several of the next items. Item F, appointments for 14-15. Item G, special services appointments. I'll give you just a moment to look through those. Again, that's 14-15. Item H, these are additional assignments continuing on 14-15 school year. Item I, substitute personnel for 14-15. And finally, we move to the 15-16 school year change of assignment. And you'll see several changes of assignment here. Item K, appointments for the 15-16 school year. So these will be starting in August. And one of those folks is here tonight. So Tiffany Selm, if you would please just stand up. You may remember Tiffany was with us in the past as an assistant principal. She has sort of spread her wings a little bit, but now she's flying home, and we're very glad she's back. So Tiffany Selm, assistant principal at Sherwood. Certified staff, Amy Cutter, Joy O'Brien, 6th grade, Trisha Underwood. Trisha's not with us tonight, but Trisha also did a little wing spreading, but after 1 year decided to come back again also. So we're very happy to know that, people may try something else out, but they tend to come back to us, so we're very appreciative of that. And then we also see some classified assignments there. Item L, reappointment of administrators. We have a great team, and my heartfelt thanks to you, administrators. You do a great job. Item M, reappointment of personnel, and on pages 6 through 9 would be the teachers. And you see we give either 1-year contracts or continuing contracts. On page 9, we're on the non-teaching contracts, administrative assistants, aides, bus drivers, cooks, custodians, maintenance, paraprofessionals, registered nurse, and then our strength, wellness, and conditioning coaches. Since the last board meeting in April, the staffing has increased just a tad, just 0.1 FTE, due to some changes in the bus routes, and so therefore it stands at 780.35. It is recommended that the board approve the Human Resources Part A report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And do we know who all is voting on Part A?
Everyone.
Everybody.
Ms. Tepfer?
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Item 13.2, Human Resources Report Part B, change of assignment. And item N, reappointment of personnel for continuing contract. And it is recommended that the board approve this HR report B as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Tepfer?
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
I abstain.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on, business operations. Mr. Johnson.
These are part of the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Item 14.1 is simply informational. The Ohio Revised Code requires each school district to adopt and enforce nutritional standards based upon food sold in schools. And we're just required annually to bring to your attention that the district, under the direction of Tia Strauss and myself, is in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code with regards to these standards.
That's a comfort to know. Keep
Glad
going.
you can sleep better. Item 14.2 is the request to advertise for bid. Is the project that Joe Kunkel described. Is for the partial renovation of Nagel Middle School, including the secure vestibule and the flexible classroom space. It's recommended that the treasurer, you authorize the treasurer to seek, to advertise for this project. Item 14.3 is the contract to award the topographic surveying services on the Anderson and Turpin campuses. This is part of the bond project, will be funded with bond proceeds. It's recommended the treasurer recommends the board award the contract as shown in the attachments. Item 14.4 is the district builder's risk insurance. One of the things that we require and what's unique about builder's risk insurance is when we enter into a contract with the contractor, part of what we do is we pay for materials to be brought on site. Until those materials are actually part of the building, they're not included in our property insurance. So there's a gap there, and this covers this. Many times you have the option of either the owner buys the insurance or the contractor buys the insurance and marks it up and passes that cost along to the district. We chose to buy the insurance directly ourselves, so we save that markup, and we're ensured that the insurance is written in the best interest of the school district. So the treasurer recommends the board approve of the builder's risk insurance carrier the $25,000 deductible per the attached premium summary through Berry Insurance Group for the period of June 1st, 2015 through the completion of the bond construction projects as presented. The next item, 14.5, is the reimbursement of temporary advances. I think it was back in July of last year, Rick brought a resolution authorizing the district to make temporary advances with regards to bond projects. We've made those advances. We've reconciled all the balances. Some of these were dollars that were spent after the bond passed, but before the proceeds were available and before transfers could be made. So the treasurer recommends the board approve the reimbursement to the general fund in the amount of $5,764.68 and the permanent improvement fund of $210,210.91. This totals of the temporary advances that were made for the capital expenditures related to the November 2014 bond project. Last of all is the Waste Management Services contract. Our current contract with Rumpke expires June 30th. We went out and negotiated a new contract along with Marymount School District and are entering into a 3-year contract with Rumpke effective July 1st. So the treasurer recommends the board award the contract to Rumpke, Ohio Incorporated for waste removal services for the 3-year period beginning July 1st, 2015.
We taking 14 and 15 together?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions of anything Mr. Johnson has presented?
So the reimbursement, that's money that came out of either the general fund or a permanent improvement fund?
Correct. And as quickly as the board okays it, then that money will be reimbursed.
Put back where it was?
Correct.
The contracts that we have, I assume legal counsel have reviewed any contract?
They've either, for example, for the surveying services, Ennis Britton's prepared those. They've reviewed the one for Rumpke, so they either prepare it or review any of the contracts.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, item 15, the treasurer's report.
This is an annual resolution regarding tax rates and amounts. This actually started back in January when we put together the 2015-16 tax budget. It was approved at the organizational meeting. That was submitted to the County Budget Commission. And they really look at our general fund as well as our bond retirement fund and determine what amounts of millage are required to collect and meet those obligations. So it's recommended the board adopt the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission of Hamilton County and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Those are listed on item 15.1. And item 15.2 is the 5-year forecast. As I've said in the material I sent in advance, we have not made any changes since December of 14. We are required by law to submit this twice a year to the state, so we are asking the board to approve the 5-year forecast, including the assumptions. We have lots of variables changing. Obviously, we're going to have year-end coming up in a couple of months, staffing and projected appropriations, as well as the TIF revenue changes that we talked about. Those will all be rolled into a forecast that we hope to present in September, which will have all those changes rolled in. And just to kind of to reiterate, in the March 2012 levy, we had a 3.9 mil operating levy that was projected to last 3 years. We were actually negative in fiscal year 14 was the beginning year. So 3 years would have been through 2016. As you can see from the forecast, we're actually up to 5 years, and we're managing that, which has been a goal of the board and the district, to make those dollars last as long as possible. So recommending the board approve the 5-year financial forecast, including the assumptions that are listed in item 15.2.
Anybody have any questions or comments on the 5-year forecast?
Item 15.3 is the treasurer's report. We have donations this time of year. We're very fortunate to have lots of scholarships and after-prom donations. Those programs have either are happening or have happened and have been very successful as always. In item B, we have a statement of board accounts. We do have one fund, our Title I fund, that we're actually, we have a negative balance at month end, but we've requested those funds. So we've met the requirements of that negative balance. Item C, we have the general fund receipts. One large item is still missing there is the TIF was actually received this month, so that'll be on next month's. So we've received 89.6% of our revenue. We have a TIF payment that's been received, and we're reconciling that now. It's our first large TIF payment with the passage of the issue in November. In item D and E, we have the expenditure breakdowns, and we're pretty much on target where we've been the last 3 to 5 years from an appropriation standpoint. Item F, we have our monthly bank reconciliation. G, our investment portfolio. Actually working to get a little bit more information to the board. Obviously, as we've been investing now since February, in November actually for the general fund, in February, March for the bond issue funds. And obviously those securities are starting to roll in and roll out, and we'll actually see some interest earnings posted and have some reports to show you over the next few months. Amendments to the appropriation, small decrease in the appropriations for the month. Item I, we're asking the board to approve some board service fund expenses. And in J, requesting a transfer of funds. NAG will need a little bit of help to get through the year, so we normally make a transfer in July or August, so we're advancing a little bit ahead of time to get them through the year. As recommended, the board approve this report as well as items 14.1 through 15.3 as presented.
I move that we approve items 14 through 15.3.
A second?
Second.
Is there questions or comments on Treasurer's report? I appreciate the diligence and accuracy that you put into these. I also especially appreciate the work you put into the 5-year forecast. I'm glad you pointed out the fact that we've stretched that levy out at least 2 years, and we're looking at 2019. But like I said, I appreciate.
Well, it's a lifting of everybody in this room is too. I mean, it's a big task, and obviously our staff has done a great job of making it last.
Are there questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. Moving on, reports to the Board of Education. Business Advisory Committee report.
Have not had a meeting since our last meeting. We're trying to schedule one in the next 30 days, so no report there.
Forest Hills Foundation report.
Well, just this last Saturday was the Forest Hills 5K. I'm pleased to report that I tied for third in the stroller division. I didn't have a stroller though, so it wasn't. It was a great event, as it always was. The weather was wonderful. It continues to really be just such an amazing community event. Dan Hamilton continues to race but not win the mascot race, which is disappointing, but maybe someday. The golf outing, the 4th annual golf scramble, is scheduled for Saturday, July 11th at 1 p.m. at Still Meadow Golf and Country Club. If you're interested in attending, you can register online at www.fhfe.org or contact either Rick Anderson or Dee Stone. The Soiree for Success last month, I reported that it was to be held on November 14th of 2015. That is conflicting with the UC football game, and Ms. Dee Stone would never allow it to conflict with the UC football game.
Thank goodness.
So the Soiree for Success has been moved to November 7th, and that is going to be held at the new Audi dealership on Beachmont. The Distinguished Alumni event is scheduled for October 10th, and nominations are being accepted now. If you have any nominations, please send them to Dee Stone at info@fhfe.org. And this week, on Wednesday at Turpin and on Thursday at Anderson High School, is the ACT Blitz program. So we thank the foundation for sponsoring that program. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. The Legislative Liaison report. The Senate Finance Education Subcommittee held 2 hearings this week on House Bill 64. That's the biennial budget. And that's the wild card on the funding formula for us for the next 2 years. I think nobody has a crystal ball, but I spoke with our Representative Brinkman, and he seems to believe that school districts like ours will be roughly stable, even budget-wise. I think a lot of the work that's being put into this are the districts that see the most fluctuation. Some of the rural school districts and I guess some of the urban see some wide fluctuation. They're trying to even some of that out. Rick, I don't know if you've got any insight as to where you think we stand as far as the formula.
The latest is we're pretty even from last year. You know, there was initially a little bit of a decrease, and then it was a little bit ahead, and now it's about the same. So, but keep in mind, that's not an increase, as I said last month. That's just, you know, a flat is not a good thing for a business that is operating moving forward. We have increased costs every year, so but a flat is better than a decrease.
I think before the economic downturn, we were averaging about a 2.6% increase every year from the state, and so without that, it just makes it more difficult. Tom, do you have any insight or anything you want to add just as far as legislative? Okay. Moving on, Policy Committee.
We met last week, right?
Yep.
Without our Neola rep, who used to be Tom, by the way. That's how we, Randy and I were fortunate to know Tom before we hired him as our interim superintendent. So the 2 policies are attached, just some minor changes, and tonight is the first look. That's it.
Thank you.
You now have a new rep too.
I hope you're not, double jobbing.
Saga report?
There is no Saga report. The Saga meeting was canceled this last month. I don't know why. I just got an email it was canceled.
Moving on, Forest Hills Teachers Association report. Mrs. Lauber.
Well, good evening. I want to take a moment here just to say welcome to the board and thank you for tonight. What a great night. Lots of fun, exciting things, seeing all of our retirees tonight. And also I wanted to give a big warm welcome to Mr. Durbin, who I also had a little chance to speak with. We have a little background from a lot of fun memories at UC Claremont College. We've had many acquaintances, so looking forward to that opportunity of working with you here in the future as we move forward. A couple things just for us from FHTA. Just a couple of business updates, and Mrs. Carnahan came up and already mentioned we had several of our MOUs that were passed. We had our General Assembly on May 7th. where that's an opportunity for all the teachers in the district who are part of the membership to go through and discuss and look at different opportunities that we're offering. And this time was the contract language on, especially like Ms. Carnahan said, mostly on our OTES was the biggest ones. Also, this coming Friday, we'll have a full slate of officers and representatives to be approved by the membership, which should include about 8 executive members and 35 building reps. So always having a full slate of members, that means we're active in the buildings, is really important. And then our third item on that one is FHTA is being continued to be recognized by OEA, which is the state affiliation, as a large district in Southwest Ohio. We're one of the largest. There are only 22 associations in OEA recognized as leaders who make a difference, and our organization is one of them. So we're really proud of that. As May is winding up with celebrations, graduations, and field days, and the doors are closing for many of the students and the teachers as we go forward into the summer, I just wanted to take a minute to ask the board to consider opening the opportunities as a key to our future success for our teachers and staff as we look forward into the 2015-2016 school year. I had a couple of these I just wanted to mention with you. One is to start thinking about opportunities to continue to allow for the district administration and the teacher leaders to drive our committees and our trainings. Second is to continue open communication for board policies and procedures to be worked together to help us make sure those things are working regularly. And the third one is collaborative professional development opportunities to enhance current Ohio Department of Education standards of professional codes of ethics. And lastly, allow us to work with you as we open communication through FHTA, our association teacher surveys and results to improve our working environment, which I know is one of the board's major areas of staff morale. On that note, I just want to make sure tonight I thank Ms. McCormick as you were presenting the rack of the room. If you didn't see us, we're very much applauding. The copy machine issue here has been a big one. You may seem like a small thing, but when you're spending lots of time with paper clips trying to pull paper out of paper machines and all these things, really seriously, that's a huge, huge big one, and we're really excited about that, I'm looking forward to that little step, but a big step in the right direction. Any other comments, concerns, let me know. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Moving on, item 17.1. Before we have our executive session motion, I want to point out that the next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be June 22nd, right here in this room, and maybe with a different configuration. With that, a motion for executive session.
Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G2, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the purchase of property for public purposes or sale of property at a competitive bidding, since disclosure at this time would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to persons whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest.
Second.
Stepford.
Mr. Hemmelgarn?
Yes.
Dr. Heiss?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissinger?
Yes.
Mr. Fruman?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. I'll point out that we do not expect to come back and take action after the executive session ends. Thank you.